Thank you very, very much. Really, really happy to be here today and talking about one of my favorite subjects, the human mind, and how we can apply it, with the consumer and marketing and brands and how they all interject together. So I'm not going to say anything more about this, but here's the book, and this is me, and this is also me. But you can contact me, and I would love to hear from you. LinkedIn's good. I've got a couple of websites as well, so make sure you get in touch. So now, this is your brain on email. And I say this because we get more and more and more and more and more email, business email, consumer email. Our inboxes are absolutely flooded. And what that means then is that we have to be making continual decisions as to what to do with these emails, right? So, and that's where the inbox triage comes in. Now, picture this, right? Sort of, I don't know if anyone else does this, but in the morning, I'm still in bed, haven't had my coffee yet, and I'm going, and I'm sometimes even without my glasses on, which I need to read, and checking through and seeing which ones need my attention, which ones can wait till later, and which ones I just don't want to have, in my inbox, cluttering it up anymore, okay? We are making these decisions continually. And then once we actually get to the stage, which is what we're going to talk about today, once we get to the stage of actually opening up the emails, we have further decisions to make. We are making, as humans, and this is just email alone, right? Think about even just micro decisions that we make all the time as humans. Getting up in the morning, should I have my shower first? Should I have a coffee first? That's a decision. Should I go and feed the cat before I have my coffee? Right? So what we do is we try to make shortcuts. And these are called cognitive biases. And we're going to talk more about, I've got 4 of them in particular we're going to talk about. But these are fantastic shortcuts that we need, because if we don't have these shortcuts, what happens is that our brains would fry completely, because we are making so many decisions on a minute-by-minute basis. So therefore, this behavior, when I'm calling your brain lazy, I'm not saying it as an insult. It's not an insult at all. It's how we're wired. It helps us to be productive. It helps us to make the most of this wonderful world we live in, okay? Our brain is wired for efficiency. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to understand that, because we currently are not designing for that. And I'm going to talk more into that as well. So essentially, we need to be, there's 2 systems which you're going to be introduced to in a minute, and you're going to find out more about them and how they both work, okay? First of all, let's go and meet Elliot. Now, Antonio Damasio, he did a groundbreaking case study on this guy called Elliot. Now, Elliot had a tumor in his brain. And what happened was that tumor invaded so much of his brain that he no longer could make decisions, because what it did was it actually affected the emotional part of his brain. So what the outcome was, and what then further studies have done and everything, it gave us this great insight that emotion actually drives decisions, whilst logic justifies them. Okay, so keep that in mind, because we're going to come and meet those 2, the emotional, and we're going to meet the more logical brain, right? So those 2 brains, fast versus slow. Now, fast one is that one that we are continually calling upon for those little tiny micro decisions. It's fast, it's emotional, it's automatic. We don't even necessarily know that we're making a decision. It's just so intuitive, it's easy, and it makes over 90% of the decisions that we make on a daily basis is made by system 1. Now, system 2, it's a bit more of a diva, right? It's slow, logical, effortful. Because it is a bit of a diva, we tend to only bring it in when we really need to, because it is more of an effort. So it's definitely brought in when we're doing comparisons, when we're really making a big, considered decision. That's when we'll bring in system 2. The funny thing is, right, even though we rely on system 1, remember, over 90% of decisions are made using system 1. Even though we rely on system 1 the majority of the time, we actually pride ourselves on making decisions, the thoughtful, the considerate, the considered, the researched decisions using system 2. And we say, oh, yes, I made this decision. Whereas in reality, you actually probably made the decision using system 1. And then you actually justified it with supporting evidence for that decision that you'd already made with system 1 using system 2. That's how we are. So on that note, think about email, right? Email's not going to necessarily break or make anyone's day unless it's one from the boss saying you're fired or something, okay? But generally speaking, a brand, one, either B2C or B2B, is going to be given some attention, yes? And first of all, we get that triage effect, what we're talking about. And then if it passes that, and if we say, yes, we want to action it now, or yes, we'll save it for later because it looks interesting, then what we want to do is we want to immediately be appealing to system 1, because system 1 is the one who actually will invite system 2 in. Okay. Without system 1 being involved, you're probably not going to get much action from system 2. So therefore, use of bold images, vibrant colors, clean layouts, they all appeal to system 1. Easy to read text, so small, consumable, palatable text as well, emotionally driven, large fonts, things that don't demand too much from us. That's very much system 1. And again, the eye-catching call to actions. And if we have a look here, the Starbucks one is a perfect fit for system 1. It's bright. We can see it very, very easily what the offer is. There's a really nice, bright call to action there. And it's beautifully written. Reusable red cup cheer is almost here. Reuse your cup, earn more cheer, and so on and so on. So it's a really, really nice example of how system 1 can work in email. This particular offer, it doesn't need to call upon system 1. So we can just leave it completely within system 2. It's that simple, okay? This one here, because this is how system 1 works also, visual. So the visual design, those visual cues really, really work well for system 1. So again, FOMO, so those cognitive biases, remember I was talking about? Fear of missing out. Don't miss out at the end of season selection. Ooh, right? Straight away, we're emotionally impacted here. And we go, oh, we want to read more. If you like a surprise, well, yes. System 1 likes surprises. This truly random selection is perfect for you. Hurry, limited stock available, just £12. Order yours now. Now, the actual image itself, with the box being opened, it's kind of tilted towards us. It looks like someone is actually offering it to us. So that is very appealing. If you also have a look, they have used that little shade in the background there as well, which is drawing your eyes down to the call to action and then to the actual image itself. This is all system 1 happening. Again, at this price point, it's still a system 1 decision too. Hey, this sounds really funky. This sounds great. Love Hotel Chocolat. Let's give it a go. Okay. Now we have something completely different. Virtual landline. Okay. So they start off a stat. 31% of people are less likely to trust a business that only lists a mobile number. Right. Did you know that? So they're hooking you in with the curiosity, but still, it's not quite enough. It's very much written system 2. It's very facts and figures. It's a little bit dry. I can see that they have attempted to, like I said, with the curiosity factor, Did you know 31% of people? So it was a good try, but it didn't quite get there. Okay, so you need to have a little bit more impact, a little bit more hook for the system 1, and then you can bring in system 2. At the moment, what we're doing here is that they're leading with features and logic and stats and everything like that, which is fine for system 2 halfway down, right? Down, once you've got them hooked. So generally speaking, think about this. Okay, we as marketers tend to assume that the people, consumers, particularly B2B, are actually just looking at our emails with complete and utter devoid of any emotion. I'm sorry, that's not how humans are. Even when they're wearing their business hat, they still want to see, how is this going to help me to do my job better? Is this going to make me look good to my boss? Is this going to give me a pay rise? Is this going to give me more hours to my day and I can, stop working overtime? Those kind of things. They're all emotive things, right? So this is what we need to be looking at. And Klarna, right? Again, this is a B2C version. Klarna's email is rational, clear. It's helpful. It's lovely. It's how it's placed is really, really nice. It's got little icons. It's very clear and everything. So in some ways it does speak to system 1, but there's no emotional hook there. There's nothing there. I can see it and I can see the layout. It's nice and easy, but it's not speaking to me in system 1 mode. So what we need to do is we need to be, it just says get an overview of your purchases, explore features. Straight away, they're talking about features. Explore features for managing your orders in the Klarna app. What actually is this going to help me? How is this going to improve my life? Do I, as a consumer, want to be exploring features for managing my orders? No, you need to break it down. And how you can break it down is you can always ask the question, what is this going to do for my consumer, all right, for the reader? And to do that, you just say, okay, so explore features for managing your orders in the Klarna app. So what? So, and then you come up with the actual benefit, okay? So you can be very clear on what you have still owing. You can see where your next payments are due, so on and so on. And you spell it out that way. So you need to hook them and then bring in system 2. So certain things need system 2, others don't. And it will be up to you to decide and determine and to test to see what is needed. Now, the whole thing is like I said, some don't need system 2 involved, but some decisions do. And they're going to be the high stake, the considered ones, the more, particularly if that's in B2B, and you have to provide like a mini business case to your superiors and all the rest of it to actually justify why you need this product or tool or anything. And what you need to still do, even given that, you still need to go with lead with system 1 and then bring in system 2. Okay, so just remember Elliot. So the emotion, it hooks. Without that, it's very hard to make a decision. And then the logic will confirm and justify and say, yes, this is the right decision. So here's a lovely example with a Zipcar. Okay, so it leads with system 1, it converts with system 2. It's using lovely colors, right? Beautiful green, which is a Zipcar color, with the gold there and the really nice contrasting call to actions that pop. Again, makes it really easy for system 1, okay? It then, it kind of like pricing per minute. Flex is cheaper than you think, exclamation mark. Hourly and daily caps, trips on one-way flex car are cheaper than you think. Well, that's talking to system 1 right there. And then they give you some nice examples. So from Wandsworth to Wimbledon, £5.92. Well, that is actually very, very cheap. So that's very interesting. That's still system 1. We don't have to go into system 2. But then it goes in and it says, okay, let's go walk into system 1. And they've taken you into system 1 intentionally with how does flex work? like a self-drive taxi. Just look for the blue pins in the app, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Now, this is great because the thing is that just think about it, right? The last thing you want to do is bring system 2 into the party or onto the dance floor when it's not needed or for a negative reason. And your negative reason could be ambiguity. You haven't been clear. You have raised more questions than you have answered, right? Then that means that system 2 is going to come in because they're confused. That therefore means too that there's a very good chance that they're going to bounce because they go, okay, this is requiring too much brain. I don't want to do this. Yeah. So system 1 and system 2 in action. Colors are back. It's great. You've got the big headline. You've got cinnamon and light brown sugar. Yum, yum, yum. Emotion, appetite, all being triggered there. You've got some nice, relatable sort of UCG quotes as well. Countdown timer. You've got an emotional hook that gets you at the very beginning. And then look at that. It goes and then gives you a little bit more of a rational close, gives you a nice testimonial as well. Both system 1 and system 2 like the testimonials. So it is a nice example of, again, bringing both to the party in this particular email. Now, I'm going to say here, I'm going to talk a little bit about ethics, right? I want to say here that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I say that about so many things. The brain is predictable, and we can identify what can persuade it. But that doesn't mean that we should manipulate. The whole idea of using cognitive biases, system 1, system 2, and everything is to help your consumer. And consumer, I mean business people as well, right? They're consuming your product. To help them, not to manipulate, right? That's the last thing you should do. And I'm going to give you some examples. So things like the fake urgency, right? The guilt trip, call to actions. I've got a few examples. All they do is they break trust. The switch and bait, which I've come across a lot of late, breaks trust. So just because you can and you see others do it doesn't mean you should, okay? The whole thing with trust and email is now very much about trust because there is so much happening in the inbox, and they're really going and gravitating to brands that they do trust, that they know they can rely on. Trust doesn't just appear, right? It has to be earned. And so it will happen over time. And if you start to abuse it, then you could destroy that long-term relationship that you have built with them. It really doesn't take much to destroy that trust. So be very, very conscious when you're using these cognitive biases and system 1, system 2 techniques and everything to think about the customer and the consumer's well-being and how you can help them to make a decision, not force them or manipulate them or trick them, okay? So here, got some very, very shady ones. Do you want to convert your bounce traffic into revenue? Yes, show me how, or no, I like when visitors bounce, all right? I mean, these are just horrible because you go, I don't want to find out more, but it goes against the grain to hit no, I like when visitors bounce, because that's not the truth, right? So again, these other ones are doing the same sort of thing. Sears, oh my goodness, looking for our best deals, enter your email to get started, show me the deals. No thanks, I don't like deals. Really? Is that necessary? So dark patterns are things that, or techniques that can be manipulative and they target system 1, and all they do is, yes, you might end up getting the subscriber to subscribe, but you're not going to get them to convert. You're going to lose them, and you've already lost their trust right at the very, very beginning, okay? Fake order confirmations, the RE in the subject lines, fake urgency. I've just written about it too, about the in the call to actions. Oh no, in the subscribe, you know, you say subscribe and receive 25% off, and they ask for your email address, you put it in, and then you hit, you know, the submit button, and then they come and they say, okay, now your mobile number, and you're like, wait, no, I didn't buy into this. No, I want my 25% because all you asked for was my email address. That's the bait and switch, okay? So again, I'm not necessarily saying that has been done intentionally. I think it's more of a not considered customer experience, right? And it's a bad customer experience. And both Old Navy and Nike have been taken to court, and they've been sued, and they both lost for using fake urgency in subject lines, right? So yes, we know it's a great tactic. Yes, it can win, but people, consumers, are cluing onto it. So again, we need to be ethical in how we use this, okay? So ethical persuasion is sustainable, absolutely, because it's going to help to build that trust, yeah. Remember to guide, don't trick. And where it says align with user goals, essentially think about, why are they here on my site? What is their goal? What are they trying to do? How can I help them to achieve that? Because once you help them to achieve their goal, you're going to achieve yours. And it's so much better that way, rather than tricking. And the BJ Fogg behavior is a great little sort of technique to use, okay? Consists of 3 parts: motivation, ability, and trigger. So motivation, what the user wants. And this is going to help you keep the consumer at the top of mind. So when if you are thinking of doing that email, subscribe, and then go and ask them, or then go and say, okay, now you're mobile, and you've got ambiguous language, or you've got misleading language, and they're thinking, wait, to get my 25%, I have to put in my mobile number. What's the story? Am I going to not get it if I don't do it? I feel tricked. I feel deceived. Okay, it's going to help you to stay focused on what the user wants. What do they want to do? Well, you set the scene here. You actually set the standard, and you said, enter your email address to get 25% off. That's it. That's what they want. They want to get the 25% off by giving their email address, not by also giving their mobile address. Okay. The next one is ability. Make it easy. Again, using that as an example. That's not easy, because once you hit the mobile factor, then they're pausing and they're going, I'm confused. I have lots of questions. I don't know what to do. Should I carry on? I don't want to give them my mobile, and I'm not going to be very happy about that. But do I need to do that to get so many questions? And that is when people bounce. That is when people get trust is lost. Okay. And then trigger, just time it right. Time it for the right time. That is going to help them to get what they need. So we're going to have a look at 4 cognitive biases. Now, these ones here are for, I don't want to say less common, because they are less common, right? They're used all the time. We just don't necessarily give them labels. We're very familiar with the social proof. We're very familiar with the urgency. Very familiar with the scarcity, right? Those are all cognitive biases that we tend to use and call upon all the time, and most of us are aware of them to a certain extent. These other ones are not necessarily, we aren't overtly aware of the name that they're given, or even why they work. We just know that they do work. So let's go and have a look at a few of them. Effort heuristic. Now, this is where we assume, so this is we, the consumer, right? the human at the end of the day. We assume that if something took a lot of effort to create, it must be more valuable. So what that means then, as far as email goes, so a beautiful design, some lovely storytelling that evokes emotion in us, that brings us into the story, and we start doing the visualization ourselves. Behind the scene look of videos and stories and everything about how something was made. Okay, all of these can help, and we want to be applying it ethically, right? So we can be using case studies and testimonials and how it's made content and everything. It really will not work if it's obvious that it's faked. If you're just doing it just to use this, but it's not real, okay? So it has to be authentic, and so genuine effort. It works a treat with the artisan, or the tailored product. And here's an example. So Framers Artisan Edition. These are hand-painted, one-of-a-kind stools, and what they did, so you can see here, read the story. There's some photos, there's some stories, and then there's also an actual series as well about the stools. It gets you hooked. You go in and have a look at this. It tells you a little bit about the actual artist herself, and then you can go and read more about it. So what you're looking at now is you're going, oh yeah, okay. So did this email take a lot? No. Did the content behind it more? Yes. Did the actual creation of the stools? Absolutely. So we can see then how that story can evolve, and how we can be looking at this email as simple as it looks, and we can see that there is effort, and we will value it more. Now, attentional bias. This can work for us, or it can work against us. Okay. We tend to focus on information that emotionally or cognitively stands out to us. So what that means is that we can use visuals to actually bring forward information. Okay. We can be focusing users on the most helpful content, using design, using bold copy, things like that. Use hierarchy, absolutely, contrast. All of these things can be used, because essentially what we're doing is that we want to either hook them emotionally, and that means something to us, or cognitively, so that's also visually, we're identifying with that information, and it's very pleasing how it's being shown to us. This one here, right, because another part of this is, if something is on our mind, right, if something's on our mind, then it's very obvious to us that we will pay more attention to it. And think about, if you're pregnant, you see strollers everywhere, you see prams everywhere, you see 5-seater cars and all this sort of stuff. You start to see everything that is related to having a baby and pregnancy. If you've just bought a car, suddenly you've seen your car everywhere. Okay, beforehand you weren't necessarily noticing your car everywhere, but now you are more conscious of it. So this particular email, it's a browser abandonment email, and we tested overt versus covert. And this particular covert one is brought, so it gets delivered after they have browsed, and they've browsed on these particular products, but instead of saying, we saw you looking at this, were you just checking it out, eyeing it up, that kind of thing, we weren't overt. We did the covert one and turned it into a more serendipitous event. So this can work out really, really well, because our attention was already on it, because we looked at it, we browsed it on the website, and now a day or so later, you send them this email and it just seems to be a serendipitous event. Oh, Oh, I was looking at that. Oh, that's really interesting, right? How nicely timed is that? Wow, what a coincidence. Blah, blah, blah. And it can help a lot. The third one is distinction bias. Now, comparing options side by side, again, this can work for us, this can work against us. When we're comparing them side by side, we can exaggerate their differences more than we would if they were just shown to us in isolation. So when we're doing comparisons, yes, we have to do it. We have to do side by side. And that, like I said, that can work in our favor, but it can also work against us. So we just need to be mindful of how to do it right and how to do it ethically as well, okay? Because it's very easy to manipulate, whereas what we want to do is we want to help, okay? Not push, not manipulate. So offer clear, fair comparisons. Make sure that the highlights, the details that we are highlighting, either in bold text or different colored font, or visually by using a different background color, are true, okay? They have to be genuine. Now here's a great example of how you can be using it, and this is with MAC. So what we've got here is these are liquid highlighters, and there's a whole range of them, and we can see, so instead of just going with the one, they've gone and used all the different ones, okay? So you've got all the different colorings and everything. What this does is it helps you to not necessarily go, oh, I want this product. It's almost like you know you want this product. It's now a matter of finding which one you want. So that's how this can be used in a positive way, okay? If this email very much nudges users to pick which one to buy, not necessarily whether to buy it. It still has the system 2 information, 24-hour hydration, 12-hour radiance, glass skin effect, and all the rest of it. But it just gives you that little comparison that you sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, this is great. Then you've got the IKEA effect. Now, remember the very first one was the effort heuristic. Effort heuristic is us as consumers looking to see how much effort was put into building the email, building the product, building all the evidence to support the product, that kind of thing, right? IKEA effect is more about our effort that we put in. So we tend to place high value on products that we partially create ourselves. So things like, Lego, right? Anything that we build. So if you think about going to a pottery class and you build this lovely little wonky kind of jar that ends up getting used for putting pens in, right? You're going to value that much more than you would something that you bought from John Lewis, because you made it. And this is how we are. So how we can be doing that is we can make sure that we are engaging them in helping to choose the products as being part of a package, right? So customizable packages, they work really, really well. Loyalty programs, DIY tools, all that kind of stuff can help. It also helps us. In fact, let me give you an example. The Fruji baby bundle. So build your own invites customer participation. So build your own baby bundle for £35. And then there's lovely instructions as to how you do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and you get to choose what goes into it. So you are now a co-creator of this bundle for your baby. The thing is that it's no real different to actually buying products on their own, but it's because it's part of a bundle. How it's been framed is that you're actually using the IKEA effect. So start to sort of look at all of these, and I'm sure you're going to start to look at all the emails that you get in your inbox and start to see, oh, right, I can see that in play. Yes, I can see that in play. Like I said, a lot of marketers, in fact, most marketers won't necessarily know that they're using a particular cognitive bias, or even the name of it, or even why it works. They just know that historically it has worked for them, so they're going to do it again. Now, for finishing off, just take these away with you, okay? People aren't going to be reading emails like marketers because they're not marketers, right? We marketers are marketers, but humans aren't, as in our consumers. Not all humans are marketers. So they're going to be reading them like humans, and that means that they're going to be using their lazy brain to consider, first of all, do they want to open it? Do they want to destroy it, delete it, or do they want to save it for later? And like I said, calling it a lazy brain isn't an insult. It's just evolution. It's how we are. And it's there to help us to make all those decisions that we make during the day. Make sure that you are anchoring your strategy in ethics. Call upon the BJ Fogg's model also to help you to build trust in those conversions, and use these cognitive biases to help people to make decisions, not to manipulate them. And the four that we looked at: show effort, that's the effort heuristic; align with attention, that's the attentional bias. So remember, if you've already got their attention, browse abandonment, things like that, you can call upon it, okay? Reduce comparison noise, that's the distinction bias, and let them love what they helped create, which is the IKEA effect. Got a bunch of great reading here, which I'm not going to go through, but I'm sure you're going to be able to rewatch this and take down some notes. The Thinking Fast and Slow, which is pictured here, that's with Daniel Kahneman, and he's the winner of Nobel Prize in economics for this System 1, System 2, okay? It's a brilliant book, really, really recommend it. We also have a free course at the Holistic Email Academy. You can use the code BuyersMind, and you can sign up to it and get it for free. And I recommend doing that as well. And please connect with me, and I would love to hear from you. And let's go and take this to build emails to help our customers, right? Not to manipulate or anything. And I'm over to you, and happy to take questions.
Great. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Great. All right. Thank you so much for that session. So that was really great. Thank you so much for putting this together and taking time to come talk about your business. So quickly, a question I have for you is what about marketers can ethically nudge behavior using cognitive biases? Where do you think the line sits between persuasion and manipulation? And how can brands stay on the right side of it?
Yeah, I think like I said, it's really about having the consumer first and foremost in your mind, right? Now, if we think of it like a two-sided coin, so our consumers, they have their own, needs, wants, desires, and all the rest of it. While we, the brand, we have ours. So all we need to do is stay focused on the consumer, help them to achieve theirs. So what we want to do is walk around the other side of the coin, hold them by the hand and say, how can I help you today? What can we do, right, to ensure that you achieve your goal? Once they achieve their goal, then guess what? You, by default, achieve yours. So it's about staying focused on the consumer, being helpful marketing, and just stay away from those shady or dark patterns. Stay away from trickery. There's a lot of, very questionable tactics out there. Just because you see someone doing it doesn't necessarily mean that, that might give them an uplift, a short-term uplift, but they'll pay the price in the long term. And I'm not even talking about court cases like that we saw, right? I'm talking about losing customers and losing sales and everything.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Kat. All right, there are no other questions, so that we can be able to prepare for the last session for today. I would like to appreciate your time and for your dedication towards putting all of these resources together to be able to share with the Mautic community. And thanks so much, everyone for joining this session. So can you all give a thumbs up or a clap emoji for Kat? Yeah, thank you, Naomi. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And this is where we bring a close to the session. And then please join us for one other session. And while you wait for the other session, please remember to visit the exhibition booth where you can be able to support our partners and sponsors. All right. Thank you so much. Do have a wonderful time as you wait for the next session. Bye for now.
We are one.